Hello again. Today I am doing a new video that I haven't done before, and I'm calling this Paperback Horror Flashback. And I am going to cover 4 books that I have read and 4 books that are going to be on my TBR. So, if you don't know what this is going to be, every once in a while I'm going to try to start knocking out some of my old horror books that I've picked up. Basically books from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And I'm going to read 4, and then I'm going to put a TBR for the next 4 that I'm going to read. And this will be a video series that I'll run every once in a while. So let's just talk about the books that I read in this first installment. First what I'm going to talk about is The Seeing. This says, child of darkness, child of light, they turned her gift of prophecy into a force for evil. I don't actually know when this was published because the copyright page is ripped out. But this is probably the weakest one of the stories that I've read out of these 4 books. It just didn't catch my interest. I just really wasn't interested in this book at all. I just didn't find it compelling at all. I thought it was going to be a lot better than what it was, and the prophecy type of storyline with a child, it just kind of dragged. And honestly, I didn't really enjoy this book. Next book I want to talk about is Children of the Knife by Brad Strickland. This book came out in August of 1990, this edition. I really wanted to read this because I read Shadow Show by the same author way back when I was a youngin', and I remember liking this story. So when I saw that there was another book by this author, I said, oh, let me pick it up and give it a read. It was okay. It was basically about these children that were kind of experimented on and, had these powers, and it wasn't bad. I did find it, if I had to give it a rating, I probably would give it like a 3. It wasn't a bad book, but it really wasn't that good either. If I could explain it well, it was an interesting concept. I just don't think the execution was done well. And yeah, like I said, it wasn't a bad book. I thought it was okay. It wasn't as bad as The Seeing, but it was just a kind of an okay book. And that was Children of the Knife. Next book I'm going to talk about technically isn't a horror book. This is Infectious by Tom Cool. It sounded really good when I read the description when I first picked this up. I really enjoyed the sounding of this, but it's more of kind of a thriller, action, espionage type of story a little bit, and it's actually not what people would call a Paperbacks from Hell era book, since this book was published in 1998, which I didn't realize, but I actually did really enjoy it. It's about this one woman who's basically kind of a seductress type of character who manipulates these people, an eco-terrorist who tries to basically destroy the world, and and there's somebody who's trying to stop her, and it really was a really interesting book. I actually did really enjoy it. This is a 4-star read for me. I actually thought, even though the sounding of the title, Infectious, and the reading of the description, made it sound like it was kind of a campy book, it actually was a pretty interesting book. I'll read the description for those who forgot. Arabella, war name Infectress, is beautiful, smart, and sexy, and she has a solution to the world's overpopulation problems. She's a high-tech terrorist who intends to hack human DNA to create a supervirus. New Age Dawn. It will kill 98% of humanity, but Special Agent Diane Jameson is on her trail. Infectress needs to elude Jameson while she gains control of Meta, the world's first true artificial intelligence. Only Meta is capable of actually designing New Age Dawn, but Meta only cares about the best interests of its maker and master, Scott McMichaels. So when Infectress throws McMichaels into virtual hell, his ability to resist will determine the fate of humanity. And again, I did really enjoy this. I thought it was a very well done book. If you ever find it somewhere, I would recommend it. It is called Infectress by Tom Cool. And the last book I'm going to talk about, What's Wrong with Valerie? I know Paperback Mania, I believe, talked about this on his channel. I just got to read this, and wow, this is the reason why you buy these old books, because this was a really cool story about this character Valerie, who basically lost her mind. she kind of hears people talking to her, ghost, and they tell her to do things. And it just is such a creepy book that I really enjoyed it. And I was kind of happy, you'll see on my TBR list, I was kind of happy that I actually found a sequel to this, because I didn't even think I would. So I'm looking forward to reading the sequel. But this is a really cool, short little book that's really creepy and kind of reminds me of Psycho in a way, but also kind of has almost like a Flowers in the Attic kind of style to it. It's just a really good book, and I really enjoyed this author, and I'm looking forward to reading the sequel. And speaking of that, now that I've covered all the books that I've read in this first Paperback Horror Flashback, let me talk about the next 4 books I'm going to read. And the first one I just talked about is What's Wrong with Tamara, which is the sequel to What's Wrong with Valerie. I am definitely looking forward to reading this. Tamara was the child that Valerie kidnapped in the first book. If that first book is any indication, I should really enjoy this. I am definitely looking forward to reading this book. I was so happy when I saw this in the used bookstore recently, and I was like, oh god, now I can finally actually read the second book in this series. So that's the first book on my TBR. Next book is called Offspring. The Offspring. In a huge house in a suburb of a Midwestern city lives a little girl named Peg, her older brother Eric, their beautiful mother, distinguished grandfather, and one other. Like Eric and Peg, the 5th member of the family is Elizabeth Porter's child, but there the resemblance ends. The Offspring, for this child was conceived thousands of years ago, is a child of infinite cunning, infinite evil, an evil as old as time. Its powers are beyond the capacity of men's minds to comprehend or control. It is not destroyed. One day it will rule the world. The Offspring. If anything can stop it, it has yet to be born. So this book was published in 1984. Definitely sounds like an interesting book. I'm looking forward to reading it. Next book on my TBR list here is a John Farris book. I wound up buying a bunch of John Farris books, and this one I'm going to read is The Ax Man Cometh. I read The Fury by John Farris, so I'm looking forward to continuing my John Farris collection. Once she cowered in a darkened room while the Axman murdered her family, waited trembling to meet death, and somehow lived. 20 years later she waits each night, struggling to recreate the Axman's features from her trauma-logged memories, summoning the madman from the depth of her soul, seeking to capture with her artistic talent and drive him out of her nightmares. Now she sits in a blackout-stranded, pitch-black elevator, trapped in darkness with a stranger who seems all too familiar, who more and more reminds her of another stranger 20 years ago. The Ax Man Cometh. So, definitely looking forward to this one. And the last one in my TBR is Andrew Needham's The Immortals. This says, what would you give for eternal youth? Drake Edwards was a hard-working family man when he was recruited to become a salesperson for Youth Hold. How could he resist? The Youth Hold people are young and vivacious. The product of anti-aging cream works better than anyone's fondest dreams. And as for the perks, Drake was entering a world of beautiful women and luxury cars where no object of desire was ever out of reach. But for Cynthia Edwards, her husband's good fortune is as mysterious as the reclusive man who runs the Youth Hold empire. Who is Mr. Leon, and why do none of the other Youth Hold salespeople have husbands or wives? Suddenly, Cynthia is moving deeper into a nightmare of money, success, and death. She's about to meet the man behind Youth Hold and come face to face with a secret so evil it can never die. So, this definitely sounds good. This book is from 1991. And again, I am looking forward to reading that. So that is my TBR for this Paperback Horror Flashback. So let me know what you think about the series. Let me know if you liked it. Comment, subscribe, share this video. And thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.